Hey guys, it's Mike with Become the Night. Today I'm ranking a whole bunch of classic rock bands because clearly it's a completely original idea that's never been done before. Now, I left out Yes and Genesis because I don't feel like, I mean, technically they are classic rock bands, but they are more prog bands than they are classic rock bands in my opinion. And yes, I did include Rush here, even though they are very much prog bands, but I think that a lot of classic rock fans still love Rush. I'm wearing these headphones like I'm gonna be listening to something. Now I just feel like a dumbass. Now, if you've ever watched any of my videos where I rank anything before, you know that these are obviously not my opinions. These are 100% confirmed axioms. There's zero way of disputing them. So anything that I say in this video needs to be taken as the absolute truth, and there's zero other ideas that could possibly contend with it. All right, so let's start going through here. Let's start with F tier, The Doors. Abso-frickin-lutely. I've had a lot of you guys complain about my distaste for The Doors. That has a lot to do with, one, Jim Morrison sounds like shit. Seriously, he's legitimately one of the worst singers in rock and roll in my opinion. Oh, but he was such a good lyricist. Well, I mean, that may be the case, and I've actually looked through some Doors lyrics, and some of them are actually pretty interesting. But the music also is kind of half-assed, to be honest with you. I was lucky enough to get +1 into the NAMM after party. It was like the Thursday portion of NAMM, so it was like the first real day of NAMM. I got +1 into the after party for Gibson, and we got to watch the guy who is the guitar player for The Doors go up there and play some Doors songs, and obviously Jim Morrison was not singing those, but it was Lauren, what's her name? Lauren Ruth Ward. Now, I was up there singing it, and for one, she looks a hell of a lot better than Jim Morrison. She's actually quite beautiful. But not only that, her voice was quite nice, and her singing those songs, I was like, you know what? I'm actually starting to gain a little bit of appreciation for The Doors. Still don't like them, but seriously, some of the stupidest guitar riffs, I'm sorry, I really don't like The Doors. I take that back. I'm not sorry. Yeah, I think that about does it for F tier. All right, D tier, the Eagles. Look, the Eagles wrote some good songs. I will give them that. They actually have some songs that have a little bit of heart to them, but man, most of their catalog is so frickin' bland and boring. Yes, they did write Hotel California. Yes, they did write the two guitar solo. No, I guess part of it is harmonized. I guess part of it's back and forth or whatever. But either way, I mean, there was a great guitar solo on that song, and they do, like, again, have some other songs that I like quite a bit. But most of their catalog is pretty trash, I'm not gonna lie. Let's see, who else is D tier here? Oh, Grateful Dead for sure. Deadheads are hands down okay, sorry, maybe not hands down. They are in competition for the most annoying fan base ever. I think the Grateful Dead wrote some nice songs, but there is no freaking way that they compete with a lot of other people on this list, man. That's not even to say that the people in D tier suck. They're just not nearly as good as some of the other people on this list as far as a lot of things. All right, anyone else in D tier? Let me see. The fuck is, oh, Bob Dylan. I can hear the rees now. Putting Bob Dylan here is like, oh, he was such a good songwriter. First of all, the actual songs that he composed, I mean, the music portion, weren't that good. Most people like Bob Dylan for his lyrics. Sorry, lyrics are not a primary component to music. They're a primary component to storytelling, so if we're talking about which of these classic rock bands was the greatest storytellers, I'd probably put him much higher in a tier. But as far as being an actual band or an artist, fuck no. Bob Dylan, when he sings, is like an advocate for euthanasia. All right, anyone else in D tier? Nah, I don't think so. All right, C tier, our middle of the road here. I'd put The Who there. I don't think The Who are a bad band at all. As a matter of fact, I think they actually have some good songs, but there's been very few The Who songs that have really gotten me like a whoa moment, you know? And I find a lot of their catalog kind of I wouldn't say it's as bland and fucking soulless as the Eagles necessarily, but definitely not a whole lot that really says to me these guys are kings of classic rock. I'd put Fleetwood Mac in C tier as well. Fleetwood Mac actually has a whole lot of very talented people in their band. I've just never really found most of their songwriting to be that great. Again, a handful of songs that I can really latch onto and enjoy. A whole bunch of their catalog is kind of like, meh. All right, I think that's it. Next up, we have B tier. First off the bat, AC/DC. They're lucky to get ranked this high. As much as their simplicity and just plain dumbed downness of their songs irritates me, you cannot argue with the energy that comes out of just their whole sound in general. I can argue that, oh my goodness, it's fucking annoying, but at the same time, I have to at least bow a little bit to these guys and eat a little bit of my pride. B tier, also Aerosmith. Aerosmith are definitely not the most talented musicians out there, but they definitely knew how to write some hits, and you gotta give them credit for that. Oop, I forgot one in C tier, Black Sabbath. Yes, Black Sabbath was one of the originators of metal, absolutely. The originator of metal, if you really think about it, but I never really found their songwriting that engaging. There's maybe like 2 or 3 songs of theirs that I could actually say I enjoy, and then the rest of them I find extremely bland and not well thought out. I don't think Ozzy's voice is that good, to be honest with you. It's not horrible, it's just really not that good. And again, if you're gonna try to throw the lyricism at me, we've been down this road before. I will give Tony Iommi tons of credit for multiple reasons, but, you know, at the end of the day, it's just fucking a C. It's a C tier. All right, going back to B tier. Billy Joel. Love me some Billy Joel. He is in my top 10 artists, but as far as trying to look at this more objectively, Billy Joel is still technically B tier, even though I have the largest of love for this man. I love so much of that man's catalog, but at the same time, for some reason, he is not as well enjoyed as other artists. It's kind of surprising to me, honestly. And I mean, I'll also be honest, there's a bunches of different portions of his catalog I could give a fuck about, to be honest with you. Some of it's quite boring. B tier, B tier, B tier. I'd put Deep Purple in B tier. You can barely see it, but it's there. Deep Purple has some extremely talented musicians, and they actually had some really great songs, and you could even say that while what they did wasn't quite metal, they were huge contributors to what would eventually become modern metal, which I think is amazing. But at the same point, I didn't enjoy most of their songs, to be honest with you. I think that their sound was super crucial to a lot of the stuff that I love today. And actually, I enjoyed Rainbow more than I enjoyed Deep Purple. B tier, B tier. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, one of the greatest guitar players of all time, hands down, without a doubt, as far as influential goes. As far as actually being an artist as opposed to being an influential guitar player, different story. A lot of people talk about how much they love his songs. I really don't really care for most of his songs, and I've learned to appreciate them more over the years, but a lot of his songs really just feel extremely awkward. Some people can get down with that. That's cool. I can't. I think that they're a little overrated. When Jimmy was able to do chord changes right, it was absolutely gorgeous, but there was a lot of times where it was just, again, awkward. B tier, B tier, B tier. Leonard Skinner. Leonard Skinner obviously is the original Southern fried rock and roll band. At least I believe they were the original. Maybe they weren't quite. Either way, Leonard Skinner kicked a lot of ass, but again, they had a lot of snoozers for me. The songs of theirs that I enjoy, which I learned later in life that I enjoyed a lot more of them than I realized, because I just didn't know that they were the artists behind it. You know, there's only 2 songs of theirs that I really latch on to hard, and then the rest of the catalog is like, it's either okay or it's just like I'll hit the skip button. And this is gonna hurt me a little bit, but Rush. Rush obviously is extremely talented and really, really, really good musicians and actually pretty damn good songwriters. But again, the vast majority of their catalog does not really pull me in. There are some tracks of theirs that are badass as hell, and yes, obviously they did the whole concept album thing, which is more than what, as far as I remember, is better than any of the other people I've picked on this list so far. As far as concept albums, they're ahead of the game on that one. I'll be honest, you know, you can be really creative and you know, theoretically sound and everything, but it just did not always pull me in. That, and I was never a huge fan of Geddy Lee's voice. Not that his voice was bad or anything, just, I don't know, it wasn't quite my thing. All right, A tier. Now, this is Cream, and I'm also including Eric Clapton in there with Cream. Cream wrote some absolutely fantastic songs, and so did Eric Clapton. The two catalogs of theirs together, which I guess you could say is slightly unfair, but the two catalogs of theirs together are actually some of my favorite classic rock songs. I think Eric Clapton is vastly overrated as a guitar player, and especially the guitar solo in Layla, which is not as Derek and the Dominoes, whatever. The tone on that guitar solo is like ear-wrenchingly bad. And the only solo of Eric Clapton's where I've actually legitimately been impressed is his Crossroads solo with Cream. But the songwriting of Eric Clapton has usually been badass as hell. I'll have to give him that. He knows how to write songs that people connect to. A tier, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Hands frickin' down. Creedence Clearwater Revival is a style of music that I should not like at all, and I love almost every CCR song that there is. There is just something about it that I'm just like, Born on the Bayou. I don't fucking know shit about Louisiana, but fuck it. Born on the Bayou, motherfucker. There is something extraordinarily American and very common man about CCR that I think is relatable to just about everybody. A tier, A tier. David Bowie. David Bowie was more prog rock than most people realized at the time. I'll be honest, I don't like a lot of David Bowie songs, but that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate them, and the man was a hell of an artist. He was a really good lyricist. Not the greatest singer, to be honest, but that didn't really matter as much. As far as being a solo artist and being in the popular rock and roll scene back in the day, he was actually thinking far in advance of a lot of his peers, which I really appreciate as far as production and songwriting. A tier, Elton John. I actually don't like Elton John as much as I like Billy Joel, although I do like a lot of Elton John's songs, but there's no denying that Elton John has had an enormous impact on rock and roll, on songwriting culture, on the culture in general, especially if you want to talk about his sexual proclivities and all of those things. Elton John is an icon in and of himself. Not only that, as I understand it, actually a pretty decent guy. And he's written a lot of songs that have gotten stuck in my head for a long time. A tier, Rolling Stones. I really don't care that much for the Rolling Stones at all, but there are a number of their songs that I listen to and I'm like, shit, that's the Rolling Stones? I didn't know that was the fucking Rolling Stones. It was actually quite surprising to me. Not only that, but I mean, these guys still managed to make hit after hit after hit over multiple decades, which is also impressive. That, and I mean, when there's actually a debate of like, are you a Stones fan or a Beatles fan? That should say enough to you right there. All right, S tier, Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin to me is the definition of classic rock. These guys are ridiculous, obviously, and were one of the main drivers of what would eventually become modern metal. I don't think Jimmy Page is an amazing guitar player by any means, but his guitar playing has had such a strong influence on so many players that have followed him. And obviously John Bonham, I mean, John Bonham's drum playing defined a whole way of playing that very few people will ever do in humanity. S tier, Pink Floyd. I don't even think they're that great, and I guess you could throw them in the prog category as well, but there's enough of a popular appeal to their music, as crazy as it is, that I think you can actually consider them classic rock, and not only that, super influential on multiple levels between songwriting and production and lyricism. You have to at least give them that much. These guys were so clean on so many levels, and I don't even care for them that much. S tier, Queen. Between the fact that Freddie Mercury's voice is amazing, Brian May just knows how to play a guitar that everybody loves. Their songwriting is incredible because it's not just basic ass rock and roll, it actually incorporates some fun theory from music theater, and there are more songs of theirs that'll get stuck in my head than most other bands that I know. Queen is like a no-brainer to me. This may be a surprise to you, but Steely Dan. Steely Dan is absolutely S tier. Not only are these guys some of the greatest musicians of their time, but they actually wrote some really, really good songs that a lot of people could dig into and enjoy, although a lot of people that are big rock heads and metal heads nowadays think that they're kind of pansy stuff. But then you realize that Steely Dan actually became the standard for the top music production. They helped move us out of so much shit production in the 60s and 70s into modern, super, super clear and just perfect production of today. I think that alone deserves S tier because they pushed a sound that basically developed the future of music as a whole, not just rock and roll or metal. And finally, the Beatles, S tier. They've written a stupid number of #1 hits. They've written a stupid number of hits in general that there are so many songs by the Beatles that I love that it's a no-brainer for me. Absolute no-brainer. All right, that's my ranking. Let me know how wrong you are in the comments below. If you like this video, you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe to me on Subscribestar and also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Become the Night. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video. Rock on!